radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Well. Good evening. How you doing? Fade to Black. Got my alien hacky sack right here. Oh, man, I didn't put my crystals in play. Can't start the show without my crystals. I got to have my crystals. My crystals have to be right here. The guitar pick. It energizes my console. All right. I'm Jimmy Church. How you doing, everybody? Yeah. Great day out here in Palmdale. We still have a huge fire, the Sandy fire, right over the mountains from me. It's heading south and east, but like 5% containment so far. So that's going on. Everything is okay. Started to head towards Calabasas. Last night we had Paul Hynek on the show, who lives in Calabasas. And as you guys saw last night with him, he was checking. We all have fire alerts that pop up on the phone. And he said last night, man, it's moving this way. And I did see this morning that Calabasas had a shelter-in-place order going on. Yeah. So anyway, right now, everything is okay. It's just a thing that we have to do every year here in Southern California is deal with fires. Okay, so that's going on, but we're safe out here in Palmdale. All right. Let's get this going. This week on Fade to Black. Last night, I just mentioned Paul Hynek was here talking about DMT and ET contact. Tonight, it's Dr. Doug Buettner is with us. Some call him Douglas. Douglas, can I call you Doug? Yes or no? Yeah. It's Dr. Doug Buettner's with us tonight. We're going to be talking about UFO and UAP science and his journey into some of the other things that are a part of our community. We will be talking about all of that tonight. Tomorrow night, Bill and Jackie Kasulis are with us, and we're going to be talking about their research into our paranormal world. It's great. I haven't had Bill on the show. Man, I saw Bill last week in Chicago. We were talking about this. It's probably been 10 years or so since Bill has been with us. And Jackie, it was great to hang out with him last week. And they will be joining us tomorrow night. And then Thursday night, James Keenan is back with us. The new season for Skinwalker Ranch. I think it premiered last night, right? I don't know if you guys watched it. I think it was last night. But and Blind Frog Ranch, which he appears in both shows. So James will be with us on Thursday night to talk about all of the latest stuff going on at Skinwalker and Blind Frog Ranch, which are, I don't know if they officially touch, but they're right next to each other. All right. My next event coming up is here in just like 8 days, man. Contact in the Desert. May 28th through June 1st, 2026, contactinthedesert.com. I have been hosting that event since it started back in 2013, and it's always great to go back and hang out with everybody there. It is the biggest UFO conference in the world. Not the biggest conference in the world, but it's certainly the biggest and best UFO conference in the world right there in Palm Springs. So I'll see everybody out there May 28th. So I will be there just to give everybody the heads up. I'll be there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. I have to turn around. I have to do some other TV stuff Saturday evening here in Southern California. And then I have to turn around and fly out to Boulder to tape Beyond Belief. So my time at Contact this year is cut a little bit short, but I'll see everybody there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. Saturday morning, I'm doing an interview with somebody. I'm going to have breakfast, do an interview, and then turn around and hit the road. All right, but I'll see everybody at Contact in the Desert. Okay, where are we? You know what? Let's just get this show going. Here's the deal. I was just talking to Doug before the show, and all of you, I've done over 2,300 Fade to Black shows. I don't know how many, probably another 500 Coast to Coast AM and TV and film, and everything that I do is I am constantly searching for knowledge when it comes to aerospace, ET. I've had multiple physicists on the show and scientists and aerospace engineers from all kinds of backgrounds, because I'm trying to figure out the science side of what is going on compared to what I have witnessed and what I have seen and what others have seen. We are going to do all of that tonight, because the world of aerospace, that's me. I live in Palmdale. I live next to Skunk Works. I'm constantly looking for the science behind UFOs and UAPs, and not only my experience, but others. He was a deputy chief scientist supporting Pentagon innovation and a former Aerospace Corporation veteran with decades of advanced space systems. Now, we're going to talk about his technical insight into the UAP conversation, and we're also going to talk about his history and his family and how he got here. We much more to talk about tonight, but I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Dr. Doug Buettner. Doug, good evening, young man.
Hey, Jimmy. Thank you. I don't know. You're younger than I am, or I'm younger than you are. I don't know. I think we're like this. We're neck and neck.
Well, you look better than me. So I don't know if you're younger. I don't know. These guitars behind me, they make me look younger than I am.
I'm going to tell you, I'm jealous of a few of those. I'm a huge rock fan. I love Def Leppard as my favorite band. So
awesome. I saw Def Leppard. A few people saw this tour. I saw Def Leppard. They were all 18.
Oh,
open for Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, 19.
Hey, that takes us back a few years. Yep.
Yeah, that would have been like 80 in 1980. I think I was still in high school, maybe. Yeah,
okay.
right in there.
Okay, I'll date myself now. I was a freshman in 1980. So
yeah, okay, so we're the same age. I am older than you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that out of the way. You like the way I interview? I can get anything out of anybody. I've been doing this a long time. Def Leppard, when they came, nobody had heard of them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody. Their album, that first album, may have just, but nobody knew who they were. And I could tell they were like my age. I was like, man, these are kids. And they were so good.
Yeah, even their first album. Yeah,
man.
One or two hits off of that. I mean, it wasn't a top, maybe close to top 10.
High and Dry.
Yep, High and Dry. Yep.
I just remember their preciseness. They were so polished.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, okay, we're seeing something here. And then, of course,
and then after that, it was just the sky was the limit after that. Yep.
Yeah, I became friends with everybody in the band, and eventually, and it's a trippy thing. And we're going to talk about life here in a second with you. You don't know. Here I am, just a kid in Indianapolis, right, at the Circle Theater, seeing this band open for Ozzy. I don't know what the future has in store for me, right? I'm seeing this. How do I know that life would just take me into the paths of everybody that I saw on stage that night? Mm-hmm. Rudy Sarzo and Ozzy and of course, Tommy Aldridge. And I never met Randy Rhoads. I never did. I never met Randy, but everybody else, my life took me in that direction. It's
And I'm sorry, when it comes to drummers, I don't care what anybody says about any other drummer. Rick Allen is the best drummer on the planet, and that's all there is to it. I mean,
yep.
Show me any other drummer that's lost an arm and can still do what he does.
Last year, or maybe it was the year before, he was at the Conscious Life Expo.
Oh.
Okay. And so I was in the VIP room because they had free coffee. All right. So I'm in there getting coffee, and somebody taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hey man, I want to introduce you to some people." I said, "Okay." And he doesn't introduce me to Rick Allen yet. I didn't even know Rick Allen was there, but he's sitting next to me. And he goes, "This is so-and-so, and this is so-and-so, and this is Rick Allen from Def Leppard." And I was like, "What? Oh, wow." And I had been sitting there talking to him for, 5 or 10 minutes about the supernatural, and stuff. But I didn't know it was him. And we ended up talking for about an hour, and he loves this community. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. No,
it's just so strange.
Yeah.
Let's back up because of your background. We're going to get to the moderns, but let's go all the way back and let's talk about your family. With what you know now, was that part of the conversation? So many years ago, was your family into this stuff?
So I wouldn't
they were witnessing things.
Yeah, I wouldn't call us into it. I would just say, you kind of grow up hearing these experiences from, my grandfather and my mother both. And, just so everybody's aware, I mean, I grew up hearing about my grandfather witnessing a UFO in his backyard. And then fundamentally, if, you go look on a map, just look for the Garden Home area, Portland, Oregon. So my mom was, basically born and raised there, Beaverton, Portland border almost. And I've actually had to dig this out over the years to try and get a straighter story. I actually asked one of my cousins, asked my mom again when I started actually doing this. And it's okay, tell me the story. Because my grandfather passed away before I was even born. And my cousin said, well, the story is, everybody was in the house and the cows started making a huge ruckus outside. So apparently my grandfather went out to figure out what the heck was going on. And he saw a flying saucer out in the field. And when I first, it's like, you don't hear about it for years, and then you hear a little bit more and stuff. When I started doing this, okay, so I thought I remember hearing about aliens walking around it. And they're like, no, there weren't any aliens, but just a flying saucer out in the field. And confirmed it with my mom and my cousin both. And then my mom says that she also saw something a few years later where she said she saw 2 orbs in the sky. And she was playing with a friend. She thinks she's 12, 13 in that ballpark somewhere. And she's like pointed to him to her friend. What are those? And she said they just literally went whoop, and took off. Now here, think about this. This is back in the early 50s, mid 50s at best. And the technology did not exist then. And I hadn't seen anything about it until I started working, or supporting the SCU as a board member. And I had bought Michael Sword and Robert Powell's book. And because that's the first thing I did. Okay, where's this story? And there's a small little blurb on it. And when I told Robert Powell I was going to be on this, he goes, I've got those Blue Book files, and he shoots them over to me. And so I'm going through them and I'm saying, oh yeah, okay, there's the one. But I didn't even know there was any documentation whatsoever until I was watching you with Richard Dolan, and you were going through the document, right? And I'm like, holy crap, there it is. And I freeze. Right. I'm grabbing the address and I'm saying, okay, my grandfather, mom lived here, and this is where, and literally it's like, if you look on a map, it's like due east where the officer reported it. And it's not that far. I think when I tried to get on Google Earth, it was probably about 8 or 9 miles due east from
That's
where they live.
that's crazy town. And then of course you have McMinnville,
Mc-
right?
yeah,
That was also at that same time.
1947, July 4th.
Yep. And going back to that's such an interesting observation because that's what I pointed out to Dolan. The fascination that I have, the reason why I live in Palmdale, as you and I were talking about, is I have Lockheed and Edwards Air Force Base. And Edwards used to be called Muroc Army Airfield. And it's the Muroc Dry Lake Bed, the Rogers Dry Lake Bed. It was called the Muroc. Anyway, in that document dump, that's what was fascinating to me. Were those military reports? The Roswell Daily Record was July 8th, 1947.
Yep.
Okay, so if you look, putting the Roswell case to the side, in the document dump from the government on May 8th, there's a whole pile of military reports from July 8th, July 7th, July 4th, right? All describing, they didn't mention Kenneth Arnold. They didn't release any files on Kenneth Arnold, but there was no flying disc, flying in the conversation here in the United States at that time. It hadn't happened yet. It was about to happen. But the point is, that's what the military was reporting. Metallic disc. And that's crazy over Muroc and that sighting in Portland, which was a military report. I think that those are all very, very significant coming from the government. Say what you want about the videos, but historically, when you go to that and you're pinpointing those dates, certainly something was going on that first week of July, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, like I said, it's like, when I got Robert's book, at least I had a date, right? I mean, okay, 1947. My mom was 2 years old at the time. She didn't even know if she was born, and because she just heard the story, she didn't know when it was. I said, Mom, I can tell you when it was, July 4th, 1947.
Wow.
So yeah, she, before she really did. In fact, here's another factoid right there. If you go look in that area, you'll see a Southwest Crystal Street. That was named after my mom in Portland, Oregon.
Fascinating. And so with you yourself, when you were young, did you have an interest in UFOs?
I think I'm, obviously hear the stories from mom, and okay, nice mom, that's cool. I think somewhere in the junior high time frame, I gotten a couple of books on UFOs and read about them, but I was the kind of science nerdy math whiz. And so, I didn't really pay attention to it for years. Honestly, I'd hear this pieces and parts. Actually, my ex-father-in-law had told me a story, and you might find this interesting, where it kind of backs up the Vatican alien type concept that, the Vatican had aliens after World War II, and from some UFO crash, turned them over to the U.S. Army, I think it was at the time. And because my ex side of the family, they were had a priest in the family, and they actually knew some of the people in the Vatican because he had gotten out of the priesthood. So apparently they knew the number two. And well, the number two guy from the Catholic Church had come to Oregon for something, and my father-in-law said, yeah, he was here, and the reason he said he was here was to check up on some aliens. And I'm like, whoa, that's kind of weird, right? But I mean, that kind of stuff, it would come in one ear and out the other one. But I really got interested in it when I moved out here to Utah and started watching the Skinwalker Ranch series. And at that point, I found out later on that, after probably the first episode, being a scientist in Utah, not far from there, found out that Brandon Fugel was actually our landlord. And, I had conversations with him and Eric Bard for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think the state of Utah is a Brandon Fugel tenant. That's kind of how that
darn close.
Yeah. I think that's kind of how it's working today. Let's get straight into this. As the deputy chief scientist, for the Acquisition Innovation Research Center, the UARC, run by the Stevens Institute for the Pentagon, when you're around those that you're working with, was there ever a discussion about aliens, UAPs, UFOs?
None of what I do has anything to do with that. I mean, it's completely, totally orthogonal.
Okay, that's not the question though.
Okay.
The question is, was there ever conversations about UFOs or alien tech or faster than light travel?
No, not really. I mean, there'd be a few of us that would speculate about it over beers, just like anybody else. I mean, nobody I've really worked with has done anything like that, at least that I'm aware of, right? They've got us so stovepiped and you could be working with somebody that worked on a program, you wouldn't even know it, right? Unless you get right into the program.
So the compartmentalization of the subject that we talk about here in our community, that is something that is a reality when you're doing that kind of research, right?
No, I have worked on some interesting stuff, and I'll just leave it at that. But nothing that's been alien. In fact, it was so funny. I started working on one program. My mom was, "Are you working on UFOs?" I go, "No, Mom. I can tell you, I'm not working on UFOs." So
that you know of.
Yeah.
Right. It's very interesting. When you say you can't talk about it, what year was this, and is it still classified?
Well, as I had mentioned, I lived out there in Santa Clarita, not far down the road from you. And when I worked at JPL, I was at in Tahunga, Glendale, Pasadena area, and then I've been around there enough to know interesting people that have worked on interesting programs. For 3 years, I worked at Northrop Grumman on the F-18EF. Longest 3 months. Sorry. Actually, the problem was I was working at the same time for JPL on what became NASA's Stardust mission. And so literally burning the candle at both ends. And part of the reason I had to do that was because the contract with NASA had gotten, I would say, somewhat screwed up. Wasn't being able to pay. So once we get all that fixed, then I went back to JPL and help build their capability. But
and what is your background?
So bachelor's and master's in physics from Oregon State University with 2 years in astrophysics at Boston University. As part of that, I did a postbac in geology for a year and actually minored in atmospheric science. And then when I joined Aerospace Corporation, they paid for my PhD in astronautical engineering, rocket science from USC. And so that's kind of the background. I, worked for JPL for a number of years. A lot of it was just completely me donating my time because being the inventor with Peter So on how to make aerogel for flight. I mean, we put aerogel up on numerous NASA space shuttles. We had it on the Mir space station. At Aerospace, you got a bunch of rocket scientists, and you'd always have these conversations about who put what up. And I'd always say, "Have you put anything on Mars?" And that would kind of stop the conversation when I said, "Well, when you do, let me know." And so that's the, background is all been space. When I worked at Aerospace Corp, I basically ran a department that helped, I call it FIX, help the Air Force oversee a troubled software program for space. I was the director over all of the flight software on what we call the bus, as well as the payloads for a program. After that, I spent a number of years at an Air Force base in Colorado, actually analyzing imagery off the satellites, and spent a couple of years working in the Pentagon doing data analysis. And then after the Pentagon stint, I came out here to help a little tiny rocket program locally that Nunn McCurdy'd, and I told them they would, and so I left the program, and they Nunn McCurdy. So what a Nunn McCurdy is that when you breach by a certain percentage, you're both your schedule and your cost. And that program blew right through it. So
Right. In the image analysis part,
Mhm.
did you ever see anomalies? And especially looking back
No, I
now,
can
with
tell
your
you
back.
that, that was the interesting thing. I looked for them too. Nothing that I'd seen, it's probably has more to do with the resolution. Now let's assume what, my grandfather saw was real. How they get here probably wasn't a normal technology coming in through space, because we would have seen it. At least I would have seen it in the stuff that I looked at. So it's got to be getting here some other way.
And what's your idea behind that? Do you have any theories?
A couple of them, and I'll just say I won't use names in this because I don't like, other than Brandon and company. I don't like dropping names, but yeah, let's just say some of the other people and I have talked about it a little bit. I think our two favorite concepts. One is wormholes. I know, talking to somebody, their thought is space-time engineering of some sort. And then quantum physics is still, being able to actually move something from point A to point B using quantum physics, teleportation, if you will, right? Star Trek
Right.
types.
And what about faster than light? Do
Yeah.
you
Okay. So yeah, you're doing Alcubierre's warp drive type concepts. Yeah, and I had the conversation again with somebody name I won't mention. That individual, was not, a big fan of that concept for various reasons, and I understand what he's saying. It just has to do with the curvature aspects of space time and trying to keep it that close, closely wrapped around a specific ship of some sort. And so that specific concept, I don't know, let's just say we like to argue and then over beer, right? In terms of what the different ones are. So, I mean, those are the basic ones, right? Alcubierre white type warp drive of some sort.
Well, Alcubierre, interesting concept. What he has said about that, and I'm not an astrophysicist or a physicist or a theoretical physicist or a physicist of any kind. I just play one on TV. But here's the thing with that. I think that he applied science to his imagination, which I think is how it should be done. And he came up with this creative idea. Later, he said, I went back and looked at the numbers and everything. It would take the energy of the known universe, right?
Yeah, it has to do with that negative energy problem.
Yeah, that negative energy problem.
Yeah.
And he said, so, nah, it can't. Now he's even flipped on that, where he's like, well, no, actually, the math, if we play with it, and others have now gone back and looked at his ideas and, you know what? No, it could run on very little energy. So that concept is an interesting one. But then NASA just announced, and I found this interesting. Last month, they announced that they are going to launch a mission to Mars this year, 2026, with a nuclear propulsion system.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Yeah, and have you heard about this system?
I've heard about them. Yeah, they go back. I know Aerospace Corp had worked on them back in the day, right, when they first did it. But then, say we had a number of administrations in a row after 3 Mile Island, where nuclear was a verboten word, and so a lot of those concepts, things of all that nature, was basically shelved. Now, I did hear a few years ago that they were actually starting to look into it again. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they get it to work.
Well, where's the proof of concept? How was it funded? What is the propulsion system? What are they even talking about? Where was it tested? How does it go from, being totally obscure and an unknown to we're launching this in 2026? Well, if they're launching in 2026, it must work, right? It's really weird. Came out of nowhere.
Having worked in space for so many years, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay. and the reason I say that, I've seen so many programs say, this is my launch date, right? And then you see that slip, and then you see the other one slip. And so, like I said, when I see it on the launch pad and I hear it goes up, then I'll believe it.
What is Aerospace Corporation? Talk about an obscure thing. Doesn't Eric Davis work there too?
He used to. I'll just say, well, okay. So now you've named one of my names. Okay. Eric and I both, actually, when we talked, we said, hey, you used to work in Huntsville. I was there a couple of times. Did you happen to work at, because you be in there, all of a sudden the tornado warnings go off, right? Everybody heads into the middle of the building. We think we were in the same room at the same time on one of those tornado warnings. But yeah, no, Eric had worked there. He doesn't work there anymore. But imagine a company full of rocket scientists. And, one of the things I loved working there is, everybody, if you think you're smart, I can guarantee you the guy next to you and on the other side may be smarter. Okay. And fundamentally, all we do is help the government put stuff up and make sure it works. And so
that is the biggest dance of an answer I've ever heard in my life. Okay, let's try this again.
And I'm not going to answer any further than that.
Yeah, what is it that they do exactly? The reason why I'm bringing this up,
okay,
when Eric Davis,
exactly, I teach space mission engineering for University of Utah. I think I mentioned that to you.
Yes.
Thermodynamics, statistical mechanics, quantum physics, rocket dynamics, structures, software engineering, systems engineering. Do you get the idea? If there's any physics or technical discipline, business, cost analysis, anything to do with putting something from the ground into space, they have experts in it.
When Eric Davis was quoted in the New York Times back in 2020, very famous quote, it was right there, where it said, Dr. Eric Davis of Aerospace Corporation says, and there was the quote was, we've got craft from outer space that we are backwards engineering. They are in our possession. End quote. I'm paraphrasing. Mm-hmm. And that quote went out, and I thought to myself, what is the Aerospace Corporation? I looked into it, very obscure, not a lot of info out there on it. But who is he at Aerospace Corporation, and do they care that he's on a front page New York Times article about UFOs?
I had this discussion with security and everything after I left, and they said, well, yeah, you leave in aerospace, so yeah, you can say what you want. Caveat, the security aspects of it, right? So when you work on programs and you got clearances, you are told what you can and cannot say about those things. So that's a fine line we have to walk. And the problem is, we have to walk that our entire lives. There's stuff I worked on that I can't talk about. There's things I know that I cannot talk about. And that's all there is to it. I can talk around it.
Can I ask you why you can't talk about it? Is it because it's defense related?
Yep.
Or
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because one of the things that I have huge issues with, and I want your thoughts on this, mm-hmm. is that the thought of ET contacting us or being here or life in the universe, that's not a national security issue. That's nature. And us as Earthlings have a fundamental right to know about what's going on out there. Why would that be a national security threat or national security issue?
So here's some of the things that, and you'd have to go back to, again, I can honestly say I've never worked those programs, but I will say, just understanding how that security apparatus works, I will say this: there's going to be, they call it the legacy program, right? Mm-hmm. So there's some long-lived program where all that security stuff was set up in some administration back in the 40s, or probably then, based on everything I've heard. And those are the rules that set out. And fundamentally, when you join that program, you're signing, you will not talk about it. Now, with Eric, I don't know exactly, for him to know that kind of stuff, all I can speculate is there was something that was done so that, he's allowed to talk about it. or fundamentally he'd be in jail right now. So that's basically it. And so, there's going to be something we call a security classification guide, an SCG, that each one of these programs has. And, there's going to be, some of the pro stuff, it'll have an expiration date on when stuff gets declassified. A lot of the stuff I was working on, it was either 25 or 50 years. And so that just says in 25 or 50 years, we'll look at it again to see whether or not we need to keep it classified or not. All right. For example, the nuclear weapon systems that I've worked on, those have got various classification levels. And in particular, one of them says, this stuff is kept classified for, forever, for all intents and purposes, right?
Yeah.
Whenever we don't have adversaries is when all that goes away.
And I understand that part of it. I do. And then when you look at something like the Wilson Davis memo, which I'm sure you've read, it's a very with Rear Admiral Thomas Wilson and Eric Davis sitting in the back of a car, at EG.
That was by the way, Eric Davis is the one who wrote that. Go ask him.
Yeah. Well, he's not talking about it. But anyway, in that document, it was very interesting. The section about, or I should say the page, which was about a company on the West Coast that had a craft, right? That they were backwards engineering. And they were both discussing it. And Admiral Wilson said he visited the company because he was signing the checks and the budgets for these SAPs and these special access programs. And he wanted to know more about it. Turned out he was going down the road of UFOs, right? Which was new to him. I don't know if it was skunk works. There were a lot of people that speculated on that. But they said that they had a craft, but they couldn't fly it. All right. But they said, you want to see it? We'll show it to you. And then they replied, he was angry. And they said, look, you can go back to Washington and yell about this all you want. It doesn't matter. A very, what's the word I want to use? Cocky. They were very cocky about because they were involved with the legacy program and an SAP program that he had no oversight on. Yeah. Right now,
I've heard the stories. I mean,
right. We've speculated that it was Lockheed. Are there other companies like maybe Aerospace Corporation or others out there that could be involved in that type of legacy program?
I honestly don't know. I would say yes. Whether aerospace was or not, I'd defer to Eric because I wasn't doing that kind of stuff.
Right. But do you have any ideas about other, because you have, General Electric and back then, companies like TRW and these other high-tech companies.
Yeah. And then who's it over here in Nevada? I can't remember the name of his company that did Skinwalker Ranch for a number of years, right?
Bigelow. You're talking about
Bigelow. Thank you. Bigelow Aerospace. Thank you. That's another one. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, just, based on, again, rumors I've heard and stuff, growing up that I know about, just background history, it wouldn't surprise me. It just wouldn't.
We just had this document dump on last Friday, May 8th, from the Department of War. Very interesting that they chose to do that. And I found a lot of stuff there that really opened my eyes, for sure. I'm still wondering, does our government have craft not of this earth? And if you were going to venture a guess, is it a yes or a no?
I'm going to speculate just like anybody else that's not in the know to speculate. I would say it would not surprise me. Just I would say the technologies and how long they've had to work on it. If it had in fact crashed in 47 as an example, maybe there are more. Maybe there's one in the Mesa in Skinwalker Ranch, and hopefully this year we'll find them retrieving more material. It's what? There's a whole bunch of planets out there like ours, and I look at it this way: where was our technology 100 years ago? compare that to now. Now look 100 years in the future. We can only imagine what it's like. What about 1,000 years? 10,000 years? What would a civilization that's 1,000,000 years more advanced than us look like? It would not, like I said, it would not surprise me.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, here's a fun question that I was talking about this weekend with some friends. The question pops up: why are there lights on a flying saucer? They come across, they come across over here, and all they do is flash their lights. And you know what my answer is? Maybe they want to be seen. Right? Maybe they just want to say, well, how come they haven't made contact?
Let's put it this way. If we had an airplane here, right, that could go there, why do we have lights on our airplanes?
So we can see them.
Anti-collision lights, right? So you can see them, so you don't run into them, right? Maybe they've got the same restrictions back home. I mean, I don't know.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, I can sit there and I can speculate as well as anybody, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I get invited in to look at one of these things and look at what the legacy program has done for the last, geez, what are we going on 80 years? At what they've done over the last 80 years, we'll find out. Maybe those documents will come out at some point. I don't know.
I mean, if I have a really cool interstellar craft, I'm going to put some lights on it. I'm going to put a paint job on it. That's what you do. What is wrong with that?
Yeah, but the thing is, you hear, for example, black triangle. Some black triangles have lights on them. Some black triangles don't. Maybe they turn the lights off. I don't know.
What about anti-gravity? Is our country moving along in that area?
I again.
So that's a yes. Okay,
let me
so
put,
that's a yes.
No, I'm gonna put it this way. All right, I'm gonna drop a name on you, Matt Sidagas. Matt Sidagas and I have had these kind of conversations, and he'll, we text each other, and he says, "Well, Eric Davis says this," and my response is, "We are not worthy." All right, this is Dr. Matt Sidagas and I talking. It's like, if Eric says this and he says this is not likely, all right, Eric, thank you. You've got, because I mean, gravity is it's a tough field. I mean, I've got a friend that knows a lot about it. I co-author papers with him, but man, when it comes to going into the math on it, I'll let you do that, dude. I've got the other part.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. And then, what do you make of Bob Lazar's comments on gravity and
I don't know. I'm just gonna say there's certain information I take in and certain information I don't, and that kind of stuff. I need more corroborative evidence before I start listening to it. There's just not enough there to corroborate for me to take any credence in it.
Well, as you know, in the 1950s and the 1960s, there was a lot of funding going into anti-gravity. A lot of companies and corporations were throwing a huge effort at it. With your knowledge of the subject, did we progress in that area?
Everything I know is everything you can find in papers that are publicly released. That's not the area I've ever worked. So I wish I would love to work it. Don't get me wrong, right? It's just that's not where my talents have been applied.
I had a sighting. You just mentioned Richard Dolan, and I talked about this on the show with him a couple of times now. But I can't say it was a black triangle because I didn't see the shape of it, but it definitely had 3 white lights under it. 3 is always a triangle. No matter how you arrange it, it's going to be a triangle. And when that thing went from Skunk Works over to my house, and it was right directly above me, not very high. If I was going to make a guess, I would say 500 feet above me. But it was dead silent, right? You and I were talking about noise earlier. The things that I hear around here. This made no noise at all. So
I'm going to tell you one thing, and you can go Google, look up noise cancellation. You can actually, when you have an audible noise, you can actually put a counter wave out, and you can cancel that noise.
Yep.
So I would go there first for a technology, in terms of capabilities, because I know we can do it. We've done it on other things. We could do it to reduce the noise in jets and other things. You just have to understand number one, noise suppression on the basic thrust of the vehicle, and then you could, if there's anything left, go through and cancel it. So that's an approach. If it's what causes that thing to fly, I don't know, but I'm just saying there's other physics out there other than going right to anti-gravity.
Do you think, and we'll discuss this much deeper after the break, but consciousness is something that always comes into the conversation. At least it does with me, where if there is a civilization visiting this planet, and I believe that there is, I've seen it, but they would have an understanding of consciousness and the other ideas and new laws of physics around that part. Is it if physics is leading into multi-world, parallel worlds, 11 dimensions, string theory, the multiverse, and these ideas are being presented and the math supports that, does consciousness now come into play there, and would ET would have an understanding of that? And it's an area that we don't have any idea about, right?
I don't see how it couldn't. Just to be perfectly blunt, I mean, we've all had probably experiences in our background where they're head scratchers, right? I can tell you, between my wife and I, we've had something where she swears, when we got back together, I mean, she was actually my high school sweetheart, my prom date. We broke up in college, but when we broke up, we both knew that, we'd get together later in life. And she swears about 2 months before I contact her, she said I physically slapped her across the head. Do I remember doing that? No. Right. But when we compare calendars, I'm like, well, yeah, that's when I basically knew I was, going to be going through a divorce. And so, that kind of stuff happens to everyone. People don't want to talk about it, I'm sure. But I'm sure if everybody, really thought hard, there'd be things where they'd be going, yeah, maybe there's something there.
Is the idea of consciousness and the battle with physics and the hard sciences, is it because consciousness cannot be measured?
That's probably a part of it. You'd have to go ask, people that work in that field. But I mean, it's very hard. I mean, electrodes, and look at the helmets to try and ECGs and everything else on your brain waves and what have you. It's a tough nut to crack, if you will. And that's you start thinking about like Elon Musk and his embedded chip type technology. I mean, maybe eventually we'll get to where we understand it better. But I know that there's it's an active area of research, right?
Right. Recently, I haven't mentioned it yet, but I guess now's the time. It appears that Neil deGrasse Tyson has turned over a new leaf. Right?
Yeah.
After talking smack.
Oh my gosh. Well, you want to talk body language, okay? Boy, I remember seeing some of his body language, and I'm just thinking, okay, dude, you're definitely biased in one direction. You are not a scientist. You have a bias, right? And now it's like, he's like, just show me the aliens. I just want to see the bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And next he's going to be talking about consciousness. He's going to be dude, I access the Akashic records. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I can see that's next. That's next for Neil. Is it he attributes this, he's trying to frame it in such a way that it was based on the military testimony in front of Congress, amongst other things, but that these are professionals and I have to accept what they are saying. Now show me the bodies. He was so adamant for years about him being the smartest person in the world. And he gave every reason why
So
We've never been
I hope
contacted.
at some point he listened to this and we can have a conversation. But I remember I had a medical doctor when I was working out of the Pentagon, and she asked me my opinion of him. And I said, well, you know, I people like that who just go off and get famous doing that kind of stuff. I'm sorry. I just don't have a lot of respect for it. Now, maybe he's done some great work. Honestly, I don't know. I do know people that have run into him in conferences, but I've never met the man. So that would be an interesting conversation to have. It's like, okay, Neil, how's your bias working out for you now, right?
Yep. I'm not here to rag on Neil, but he's such an easy target. And let me ask you this. When do you think was the last time where he wrote math on a whiteboard?
Oh, geez.
You know what I mean? Like
Ask him that question, but I can tell you I do it. I don't do it every year now for my class. But when I first started teaching this class, that's what I would do. I would literally go write out all the equation, all the assignments and stuff on the whiteboard after I went through my slides. Now I just have everything in the slides, and try and give the students enough time to just ask me questions afterwards, because I know they're perplexed, right?
Well, here's the other issue that I have with a lot of scientists, and I talk to all of them, is this: they have a certain amount of fan base and their students, and they also have the funding conundrum, right, that they're battling.
Yep.
So you're not going to talk about Atlantis. You're not going to talk about aliens. And so your fan base, and Neil's got a huge fan base. And so when you're out there projecting a certain ideology when it comes to ET and ET contact and the possibilities behind it, and then suddenly you flip, what does that do to the fan base that has been taking you at your word for so long? And is it that everybody, I think that, I want you to laugh, every physicist reaches a certain age and then they don't give a crap anymore, and they start talking about time travel. And
I've had people ask me why I'm doing this. I'm started losing count of the podcasts I've been on. But I said, well, I'm glad somebody asked me. I said, because I can, right? But number two, it's like, because I don't care, right? I've had people slam me on Reddit, and then it's like, literally, we just got through putting the response out there for one of these people. It's like, I'm sorry, you don't know the whole story, and don't pick apart something you don't understand, right? Or you don't have the full story on. But fundamentally, I'm at a point in my career where I'm not far from retirement. Throw it at me, give me your worst. I don't have an ego. I really don't. I just don't care. I don't care what you label me as, but you better get your story right if you're going to slam me.
Okay, so let's go there. Are we being visited? This UAP UFO discussion that is happening in the media in Washington, D.C., and of course on programs like this, it's out there now. Is ET visiting this planet as you and I are talking?
Well, like I told you, you know what I grew up with. So I know the integrity of my mom. I know, based on everything I've heard from my family about my grandfather and his integrity, high integrity guy, I just don't see him as lying. I just don't. And if he says there was a flying saucer in the fields, spooking the cows, I'll have to believe there was a flying saucer in the field spooking the cows. Now let's fast forward almost 80 years. And you're asking me if I believe it. I'm going to have to go back with the way I was raised and say, yeah, and just what I can look out there and see in the sky. There's billions and billions of galaxies and billions of stars, and don't even try and convince me that we're the only intelligent race in the entire freaking universe. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. You almost dropped an F-bomb, Doug.
I was
tempted. You wanted to. Yeah, you.
I caught myself.
You're the guest. You can do what you want. But here's the thing, and you bring up a really good point, and so we'll do this, and then we'll take a break.
Yep.
In 1995, we discovered the first exoplanet. outside of our star system. 1995, dude. Yesterday, my daughter was born in 1995. Right? It's
Oh, mine was
yesterday.
born in 96, so your daughter's 1 year older than mine.
Yeah, she's just turned 31, man. It's blowing my mind. Anyway, now we know that every star that you see in your backyard has a planet. Everyone, at least.
Very highly likely has a planet, right?
What do you do if you're an astrophysicist right now? If you're an astronomer, you know what you do? You go discover a planet. You just wake up and go and find a star, and you're going to find something transiting. That's crazy. And now, as we look at the math, which has changed since 1995, where it was 1995, there was 100 billion stars in our galaxy. Now the conversation is there's at least 1 trillion stars in the Milky Way, right? And the amount of galaxies in the universe, it is just multiplied out and out and out. And if every one of those has a planet, the amount of life is infinite. I don't think there's a cap on it.
It's a big number, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a huge number. And what are we doing here, Doug? We're looking for exoplanets. We're looking for alien life.
We're arguing about, not with you and I,
right?
Everybody else about, right?
Well, wouldn't ET be doing the exact same thing? Aren't they looking for exoplanets? Aren't they looking for life on other planets? Of course.
Maybe that's part of the draw. You got a young species here. Let's see what do they blow themselves up in a nuclear war, or do they survive and become a player, right? Yeah.
Did you know Gentry Lee?
No.
Okay. You know who he is, though.
I've heard the name.
He was at NASA, still is. He's in his 80s now, never retired, but he did the Mars Surveyor program. He did the Viking Lander program. And he was also Arthur C. Clarke's co-author on like Rendezvous with Rama and the Rama series of books, a whole bunch of books with Arthur C. Clarke. But Gentry Lee has a new documentary out. It's called Starman, and you should watch it tonight. It's fascinating. Great documentary. And this is what he says. He goes, if every civilization was a light and you spread those lights out and they were on when the civilization was around and then extinguished when they ended, we would see these little flashes of light over 13.8 billion years where civilizations just come and go for 1 million years or 2 million years, but it's just a blink of a light, right? How much of that, and are we part of that? Are we going to end at some point? Will we have a last thought? And I find that very compelling when we're dealing with light years of distance from us. We may see the evidence of it, but they're not there anymore. Right? Yeah. It gets to us, but they're already gone. Just like us projecting out. If we're not around in 10,000 years, they'll see the evidence of us, but Earth could be a cinder block at that point.
Yeah. Like I said, if we're blowing ourselves up, right? But yeah, no, it's we could sit here and philosophize about that for hours, right? Just, fascinating topics, fascinating side rabbit holes. Yeah, fun stuff.
You have a little green alien in the background.
That was a joke from my wife.
That's not a joke. That's not a joke. That's a little green man.
She got it for me for Halloween this year, and I said, I know right where to put that.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Doug Buettner, is with us. We're talking about UAPs, UFOs, science, and when we come back, we're going to talk about consciousness. Doug, stay right there. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now.
Contact in the Desert is back. Come see a legendary lineup of iconic speakers, including George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, Daniel Sheehan, George Noory, Whitley Strieber, Chris Ramsey, Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, and many more. Join us in beautiful Indian Wells, California, May 28th through June 1st, as we explore infinite realms. Get your tickets now at contactinthedesert.com.
I'm heading back to the Midwest for the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd, 2026, in Delavan, Wisconsin, at the Lake Resort. It is beautiful. This is a great conference right in the heart of the Midwest, where I'm from. I'll see you there. Just go to Contact Modalities Expo, that's XPO.com. I will be hosting and presenting once again at Contact in the Desert. That's May 28th through June 1st, 2026, the largest UFO conference in the world. Come and hang out with us June 23rd through July 1st. Tickets and everything else that you need is at contactinthedesert.com. Want to change your life? Want that paradigm shift? Then visit Peru with Brian Forster and myself for the Inca Celebration of the Sun, June 23rd through July 1st, 2026. Full 10 days of visiting the country, all of the amazing sights, and of course, the celebration of the winter solstice. It's all simple to do. Go to hiddenincatours.com. Come join us for the Monty Python Scotland Tour, August 1st through the 9th, 2026. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event where you get to go to the castles from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. August 1st through the 9th, 2026. Just visit HaleyARamsey.com.
Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's fade to black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Fade to black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com.
All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Dr. Douglas Buettner is with us talking about the science behind our community and what is going on and trying to figure stuff out. It's always great when I have somebody on that understands the science behind all of this. And Doug, I wanted to ask you, how do you describe the other side of our reality? We have this, and then we have everything else. What is that to you?
So that's a great question. And so, I kind of told you the wife experience. So, do I remember doing that? No. Was it on her side? No. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting factoid. And, even some of the, hitchhiker effect type things I've witnessed, and some of the stuff I've seen out at the Skinwalker Ranch property that was captured on cameras. It maybe that's something that's coming through through that 11-dimensional, 3-dimensional barrier, 4-dimensional barrier. I don't know. That's a great question. That's things I certainly hope somebody's been researching it and has a better understanding, but I all I can do is speculate with you.
The word interdimensional is used a lot today, and it's a word that people apply to stuff that they may not understand, so they throw that tag on it, interdimensional. When you hear people use that word, what's your definition of it?
Let's go to the string theory. And so if you've got a 3+1, you go into, like, for example, Kaluza-Klein, where maybe it's a 5-dimensional, right? But fundamentally, a 5-dimensional doesn't quite solve everything. There's problems with it. So you start adding dimensions. That's what string theory is all about. But now the question is, well, gee, great. What happens if you die? I mean, if you live in that kind of a universe, maybe you're still, those extra dimensions or parts of you still continue on. And so maybe an interdimensional being is something that was alive once and now no longer is. But that residual energy, dimensions, whatever, maybe that's what's there. Maybe that's what the shadow figures are. I mean, it's like we can speculate, right? But where's the hard science behind it? I haven't seen it.
The other idea that is out there, which goes back to Stephen Hawking and other physicists, when they talk about information, and that information never goes away, right? And again, a hotly debated topic.
Great stories there in terms of somebody having to change their theory about how black holes work. And how information leaks out of black holes. It's not destroyed, it's just reconfigured, right?
Yeah, right. And to think about, Lenny Susskind and Hawking and Kip Thorne and others sitting in a room arguing about this, right? Well, I think this is my take. They're talking about consciousness, but they don't want to use the C word.
Well, consciousness is definitely in the mix. Now, interesting story about Kip Thorne. So, I don't know if you know this, but you know where Kip Thorne's wife was born or was from?
No.
Corvallis, Oregon. And so,
is that right? Okay.
While I was a grad student, we had Kip Thorne come up and give a talk. And so, I remember meeting him when I was but a young, pee in his pants grad student. So, but yeah, no, I mean, those guys, they work with the mathematics that goes and looks at all that kind of stuff. I like reading the papers on it. I understand some of it. Could I solve an equation in it? No, not right now. If I spent 3 or 5 or 10 years working on it, maybe. Right.
Well, if that's the case, okay, in that if information never goes away, and then physicists also have the conversation about, and they say that the math supports this. I don't know, but that thinking also continues. Again, if that's a thought and thinking and information is always there and never destroyed, why can't they just say we're talking about consciousness here?
So some of, I think, as you know, some of what I do is work on artificial intelligence, right? Right now, I've got work in large language models in particular. Just in 3 years of using the large language models, I've been blown away just at how much better they are. Boy, those things the technology where you give it a Turing test, it could probably pass it. I mean, it's that good now. But would I call it alive? I don't know. I've heard arguments on both sides of, if a sufficiently good model like a ChatGPT 5.5 or 5.4 or, some of their large language models, but fundamentally that's just neural networks. The math is just, it's got a lot of training behind it, and it seems very intelligent. But what happens when you turn it off? Is the information gone? That's debatable. So, yeah, I know it's great questions. Wish I could answer them.
Yeah. Well, and then we have the other side of it, which is there are people out there that access the Akashic records. We have people out there that channel, that are accessing something
Mhm.
and viewing it. And if science says that information never goes away, and then you have what the Akashic records are we talking about the same thing?
So yeah, like the remote viewing stuff, right? That Hal worked on. And I talked to Eric a little bit about it, and the remote viewing stuff actually fascinates me. And in fact, there's actually not that much that doesn't fascinate me. And that's one of them that really, it's like, gosh, I'd really love to do some experiments and try and get at the fundamentally what's going on inside of here when a person is in a the kind of state where they're able to receive that information or see that. Could you physically understand how the brain is reacting? Is thoughts showing up in one part of the brain versus another part of the brain? Boy, that's good questions.
Have you tried to apply any of these ideas?
I've actually had people try and do it on me. Being a scientist, I'll set up an experiment, and I'll say, okay, I've got a book on my computer. You tell me what's on the cover, right? But that individual never responded with anything. Another lady that I tried it with, I said, okay, I'm gonna give you something, and I came back with like 2 or 3 rectangles, and I said, well, okay, yeah, that could be interpreted as my laptop and my 2 screens, right? I can see that as a thing, but that's not what I was after. My wife's horse passed away that day, right? We had to put it down, and we were both emotionally distraught because we had to put an animal down. So it's, I'm not sure what people can channel, if you got to be, taught in it, things of that nature. So the couple of experiments I've tried, I call it mixed results.
How do you think ET communicates in the vastness of space in real time?
So I'm going to go to probably the quantum mechanics, quantum entanglement answer.
Yep.
That's the only thing that really makes any sense to me. Quantum entanglement, as you probably know, means I can have 2 particles that are entangled literally on opposite sides of the universe. Once I've measured one, I've immediately determined what the state of the other one is. And so the example that we like to talk about is the spin entanglement, right? And so an electron, I'm going to get into a rabbit hole for you. Just tell me if I'm getting too technical for you.
No, you won't.
Spin up, spin down, right? Once you entanglement, you don't know which one is. This one could be spin up or spin down, and this one could be spin up or spin down. Put them on opposite sides. Once I measured this one as spin up, that one is immediately spin down. You can do it 1,000,000 times. That will always be what happens. You can do it 1,000,000,000 times. That will always be what happens, as long as they're still quantum entangled when you do that measurement.
And if you change the spin of one, then the spin will change with the other.
If they are quantum entangled, yes.
At the speed of now.
Actually, they've actually measured that now. It's fast. It's not immediate. But it's like, 1 to the 10 to the a whole bunch of digits, right? In the negative fast. I mean, I can't remember exactly what the number was, but it was like 10 to the minus 100 or 10 to the minus something, right? It was very, very fast, but not
more than particles in the universe. That big of a number.
Yeah.
Wow. The reason why I bring this up, if you and I jump on a ship and we go out to Alpha Centauri, right? 4.5 light years from Earth, our closest star friend. And you and I get a flat tire. We're not calling AAA,
Nope.
right? Because it would be 9 years before AAA said, right? It's going to take a minute because it's 4.5 light years back to Earth. They listen to our 911 call. And then 4.5 years later, we would get an answer. That doesn't work. And that's just 4.5 light years away. So if you and I are on another ship and we're heading to a star system that is 100 light years away, and somebody's coming at us at the speed of light and we're passing each other, how are we communicating? Right? There's just no way to say, hey, what's on that star? You know, what no, we would pass with modern technology. We would never be, but ET has a workaround for this. They have to communicate in real time, don't they?
So I looked at it from another side of the problem. Okay. So we had for years and years and years, all the statistics, again, going back to the number of planets and stars, say that, gee, we should have a significant number of civilizations out there talking to one another, right? Should be able to just turn on the radio signals and listen to them. Nothing. Absolutely. Every once in a while, the wow signal. Okay, great. Can you reproduce? No, we can't find it. What that kind of told me is, well, okay, I'm sorry, but the Drake equation's wrong. Maybe there's a faster way to communicate. And then enter quantum entanglement, right? Maybe there's a way to communicate with quantum entanglement. Again, I'm speculating, but when I see, I can't remember how much money was spent on SETI with virtually no results. That just says that something with that Drake equation is wrong.
And maybe, just maybe, I'm going to sound smarter than I really am, but just maybe they are at a different time scale than we are. In other words, the signals are out there, the communication is happening, but it's just gibberish to us. And
we don't know how to listen in. Yeah.
Right. It may be, that's kind of like, Occam's razor. It's like the most easiest way to look at it. Well, it's all around us. It's just at another time scale. And it's just something that we don't understand, and we don't have the sensor data.
Still going back to radio waves. I mean, if let's go to Skinwalker Ranch. They got the 1.62 gigahertz signal, right? Maybe that's within an atmosphere you're doing 1.6, whatever. But when you're talking to somebody on the other side of the universe, you're using quantum entanglement. You got wormholes, or you're doing something different. So that it, like I said, I consider us a very naive young civilization, and if we have civilizations out there 100,000, 10,000 million years more advanced than we are, there's probably quantum physics tricks that they've learned that we just haven't figured out yet.
Well, a new set of new laws of physics. See, that's the other thing. Going back to Tyson. All right, let's go back to Neil for a second. And I'm not just picking on him, but other physicists say the same thing. Well, faster than light travel, and it's breaking all the laws of physics. And I'm like, what laws of physics are you talking about? The ones that we know? It's somebody advanced from us. They've got new laws of physics that they're operating in, and they've got parameters that we don't understand yet. How do we do that with our ability to understand? How do we, if ET gives us this information, do we even understand what they're talking about?
I would tell you right now, with the large language models that are going on, basically you add a quantum computer to that, it would not surprise me all of a sudden within 5 to 10 years, we are just making phenomenal advances in our understanding of the universe. I'm solving problems right now that literally 3 years ago or even a year ago was literally impossible to do. And I'm just about ready to do things that we wished we could have done a long time ago.
Like what?
It's just my day job, right? So in the day job, you can actually Google it. You just look up national defense, my last name, and the word policy. And you will see articles out there in National Defense Magazine about something called the Policy Test Lab. And the Policy Test Lab is, we had a task from the Pentagon to go in and see if we could actually start building a capability to, test out our policies before we implemented them. And I don't see anything technologically that's going to keep me from doing it probably within about 6 months, to where I would be able to, I can literally sit down and chat GPT, say, and this is the example I use in the, the demos and stuff. I want to know the ramifications of a policy where all school children shall only drink chocolate milk. So that's the policy we're going to pass, right? Well, you can think about it. Well, what happens if only kids are drinking only chocolate milk? Well, great. You're going to see obesity rates go through the roof. You're going to see lots of more visits to dentists. You're going to have a lot of pissed off parents, right? And so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to build a capability where you could literally just ask a question by typing a question into the computer, and then have it go off, look at, what the research in that area has already been done, go off and build a model of that, and then be able to run that model for different stakeholder perspectives: the kids, the parents, the dentists, the teacher that's got to live with hyped up kids on sugar, right? And now that I've got the model, now I can have other agents, agentic AI technology, represent each one of those stakeholders. And so now I can go through and I can actually do the negotiation, saying, okay, great, what kind of policy makes sense other than forcing the chocolate milk on everybody, right? Because you're going to have some kids, they just can't, they're going to be lactose intolerant, right? I can't drink water. What about, why can't I have any regular milk, And so, I use that as a simple concept. Why? Because number one, a lot of work's actually been done on it. Lots of models out there. I'm going to be working with a research group at Georgia State to see if I can take their model and basically run through their different policy questions. Again, simply asking the question at the computer. You could not do that even a year ago.
Yeah, for sure. Brian Greene has said many, many times that string theory shows a lot of promise, like the idea, the theory of everything, and and getting this into one simple equation. But he's been working on it for decades.
Yeah,
right, decades, and he has said, well, it's not going to be solved in my lifetime, but maybe in about 50 years. Now, those statements were made before AI and the idea of a quantum computer doing this math.
Yeah.
Do you see string theory as getting solved very quickly because of AI?
Some kind of quantum gravity type way of I would say, merging the large gravitational thing that we see with the quantum effects. If that's string theory, then that's what it is. If it isn't, we should be able to go down those paths with the computers. I mean, it's like not a week goes by and we're reading something about some math whiz used AI to go solve something that they, hadn't solved before. And so I wouldn't doubt it. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if it's already hadn't been done.
Is it a shortcut that has value? And I understand the end result. You can get the equation, right? You can get your policy set. I get that. But there's something else that is retained and understood when you take the analog approach, right? Pencil and paper, for instance.
Right.
And so you can get AI to give you the number 42 is the answer to the universe. You can go ahead and laugh. All right. That was good. That was good, right? That was good.
I love Douglas Adams. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had the Big Unabridged book when I was a kid. So.
But if you get the answer, but you didn't work through it to get there, then do you retain the understanding of why?
That's a great question. So right now I have agentic AI coding a lot of my stuff. And I would say 6 months ago, I'd have to go in and debug it because it was not working, right? Now I don't have to. But what else is in there, right? I'm not diving into the code to figure it out. Not all the time, but some of the times I am. I'm just going to, okay, what did you code for me? What am I running that I don't understand, right? But we are definitely, I've seen research out there saying we are getting, and I say this all the time, I don't think we're getting as smarter as a civilization. I think we're getting dumber.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, right? We just had the first generation that wasn't smarter than the parents. And so why is that? It's probably because of these stupid things right here. We're all doing this, right?
For sure.
And so we're not out playing, we're not out innovating, we're not, when you and I grew up, when did we get home? We got home when it got dark and we couldn't see outside, right? This next generation that's coming up, the Gen Zers, they didn't grow up that way. I can't tell you how many times I walked in the front door when, I couldn't see outside anymore, growing up in rural Oregon. So I'm with you. It's a problem.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge problem where, our brain isn't being exercised anymore. You and I both know. I'm saying this to some of the listeners right now that don't have a concept of what I'm about to say. And it's said a lot, but they don't understand it. You and I grew up with a phone book in our head. You knew every friend's phone number, every relative's phone number, right? You picked up the phone and you dialed it. I don't know anybody's phone number now.
Yeah.
I don't even know mine. And I have three phone
I
numbers.
find my wife's. It's like, okay, what's my wife's number again?
I have 3 cell phones, 3 different phone numbers. How do I know what number I'm calling from? I call the other phone so I can see it come in. I do it all the time. Yeah. It's nuts to me how lazy we have become. GPS. I mean, we were all Marco Polo at one point. We knew how to get around.
Everybody
we had
knew
directions.
Back then, you knew what a Thomas guide was.
Yes. Are they still around?
I actually had to go. I think I found one once.
I have like 4. I have 4 Thomas guides that used to sit in my car.
Yeah.
That was it, man. Break out the Thomas guide. Okay. All right. Left, right for 15 miles. I got this. I have no idea.
It was always a pain when I was like, oh crap, I got to turn this other page.
I have a friend. She's probably listening right now. I don't want to say any more. She has a self-driving Tesla. Okay. All right. Do you know how she gets around Palmdale? She's not grabbing the steering wheel, man.
I don't want to think about it.
Yes. She's punching in addresses. And then, I've ridden with her. Right. And that is crazy to me. So, over the weekend, last week, and I want you to laugh out loud. She calls me up. She goes, I need your address. I go, you've been to my house dozens of times. Yeah, I know, but I need your address. I said, wait a minute. You live a mile away. I said, no, I'm not going to give it to you. So you can punch it in your car so you can get here, figure it out. I was like, oh my goodness.
I'm going to guess she's not our age.
No. Super smart, amazing business owner, really intelligent, very accomplished, but she don't drive.
No,
she don't drive. She texts and drives because she's not grabbing the wheel. And that's crazy.
I remember one time being on the 405 going down to, Aerospace and literally looking to my right and seeing somebody driving in the stop to go traffic, right, putting on their makeup. And I was blown away. I'd never seen that before.
I saw somebody in a Tesla. It was self-driving. This was last month. I have not talked about this. I forgot about it till right now. So I'm on the freeway and I turn and I see a Tesla and in the center lane, and I'm passing it on the left-hand side. I just happened to look into the car. Do you know what the driver did? Turned the page of a magazine. Just driving, man. Flipped the page, was reading. And I was, what if something happened? What if you had to grab the wheel? What if something ran out? What if? But they were reading a magazine while driving.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. They weren't looking at their cell phone. They were turning the page in an analog in a magazine, which is outdated.
Actually, out here in Utah, they've started packing vans full of police officers, and they are cruising the freeways looking for people that are distracted drivers.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it.
Good.
I could not believe it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you this too. We were talking about faster than light travel. How do we overcome that? How do we, and when Einstein threw all of this out there in 1905 and 1917, the scientific community is steadfast at there's nothing faster than the speed of light. That's it. At time stop. How do we overcome that? How do we overcome faster than light travel?
You can warp space, right? We talked about that, a Kubler's warp drive, and then derivatives thereof. Various papers that come out now saying, well, it's not, an unreasonable number for the negative energy density. It's, now a semi-unreasonable number. People are coming up with new metric modifications, what Eric Davis's of the world, talk to them. There's problems with it that need to be circumvented, so they're not a big fan of it. Eric and I were talking about, the quantum entanglement approach, and frankly, I think his opinion is a wormhole is the approach to take. Is somehow you're able to modify the space-time metric and create a wormhole, or maybe a wormhole was there and somehow you do something that opens it up. That's his opinion, and he's got a book out there, and in the 2000s time frame, where he said they put the chapter as an appendix, and he said get that appendix and read it, and he said that's probably about as good as there is out there right now in terms of what makes sense to be able to get through that problem.
So the idea of a standalone ship just pointing in a direction and increasing speed, not a wormhole, nothing else, just engine power in a straight line.
All work.
Can that go eventually? Can we get that to go faster than light?
No, you can approach speed of light. The problem is also what happens is your mass starts going through the roof.
Infinite mass.
Yeah, you start getting your mass starts going up. So no, it's not. You're not getting there that way. That's why they say that. So it's like you got an entire generation of physicists say Einstein said everything that we've tested with special relativity, general relativity says it's correct. We have not found any way to certain. But then somebody called out Kubrier, and let's go back to Star Trek. The entire idea of warping space time. There may be something to that. A wormhole. Actually, Kip Thorne started working on that, and I think it was the 90s. And everybody started getting all excited because Kip Thorne at Caltech was working on wormholes, right, with a grad student or two. So those are your options. And like I said, the people I talk to that this is what they do, that wormhole seems to be the one that they're zeroing in on.
Aren't there particles in space that are faster than light?
Oh yeah, you're talking about tachyons.
Yeah. Well, it's
tachyon is a theoretical particle so far as we know, and a tachyon is a particle that only goes backwards in time. It does not go forwards in time. And so it's I would call it a loophole in physics. When you start looking at space-time diagrams, that's I'll tell you a story. I went to my ex-wife was a chiropractor, and we went to this thing in Vegas, and we're walking around this conference center, and there was a booth there, and they had this tachyonic bracelet. Oh my gosh, I started laying into them, and my ex-wife was pulling me away from, because I'm like, you guys do realize that it's a theoretical particle, nobody's measured it. If you can do that within that bracelet, why don't we have our Nobel Prize right now?
Right. How do we I go on sky watches all the time. with people, and I also do them in my backyard. I'm in the desert. I've got the Milky Way above me, and it's wonderful.
Grew up that
How
way in
do
Oregon. Yeah, it's wonderful to see that.
how do we know the difference between a satellite and an ET?
Okay, great question. So one of the things that I was hoping you would ask me about, finally got there. How do you tell the difference between a satellite, right, and a UAP? So what you want to look for is a satellite will pretty much just go in a straight line. It will have pretty much a constant speed. It may seem like it's going fast. You may see it and then it may disappear. But the thing is, it's not doing this, right? If you see something that's going, all of a sudden it takes a zigzag off to an angle, and you've got, especially if you can get two cameras on it. Oh my gosh, we would love to see that data, because that's the kind of thing we're looking for as a signature. That and what I'll call instantaneous acceleration. So you see it, and then all of a sudden it just takes off, right? And so you can see the streak. You see it stop, right? All of a sudden you see it take off in a different direction. Those are the kinds of signatures that we as UAP researchers are looking for.
Have you observed that yourself?
Well, I have a video from a gentleman in, I think he was in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the time, and he had a camera out on his roof because he was getting interested in the topic. And actually, Telemundo had interviewed me on this. He's got this thing that comes into view from behind. Looks like it's coming from behind the trees. It stops. It literally does this. It goes up and it stops, sits there for a few seconds, goes a little further, and then it stops again. And you look at those images and you cannot tell that it is not a star. I mean, I'm looking at stars next to it, and it's sitting there for 3 minutes in one spot and does not move. And then pretty soon it goes across the image, circles around, and then exits off to the right. Now, I'm not seeing fantastic movements, but it's that direction change that really has us interested. And they were asking me, so what do you think it is? I said, well, based on the area where I'm split. It's either a UAP, or on the other 50%, it's some kind of a military technology, and they're out testing it because there's a few bases around there that they could see from that location. So
I have I'm going to show you a video that Mark Antonio sent.
Mark, yes.
Yeah, he's great. He's amazing.
He is.
And so he comes on the show, and he had told me, he said, Jimmy, I captured something last night, and I'm still looking, but this is extraordinary. And so this was captured from an observatory in Arizona, and just pointing at the night sky from horizon to horizon. Okay. Mm-hmm. And this is the video. I want you to watch it. Check this out. All right.
Yep.
Now, here it is in slow motion.
Okay, so here's my first reaction. I wish you had two cameras, okay, because I've seen things that will do that, and all they are is insects.
Correct.
Right? So I've got one I actually give to my class. There was this guy that had this thing. He sent it to us, and I'm looking at it, and literally it looks like it goes around the sun, okay, and literally it's doing this. So you see the sun here. He's got the sun in, and you see this thing go around it and then take off, and it's doing a curve. And so I'm thinking, wow, maybe he caught a comet, And I'm going through, and then I start measuring how far out, from the sun that comet would have had to have been. That thing would have had to be going multiple times the speed of light to be able to go from where it was around it. And then I started going, okay, what are the other things that could be? Well, an insect, right? If you have a backlit insect, now a lot of problems with a lot of these cameras is you can have a light, and you have this problem with trail cams. They've got this IR light, and it will be basically reflecting off of that insect as it's flying through the frame. Now that's why, and I've had this argument with many people. I'll keep them out of it. But I always recommend having 2 cameras set up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now what you can do is say, okay, if it's an insect, that thing will have a definite difference in terms of the stars in the background. Okay, in terms of just the triangulation problem. Or you will only see it in one camera, you won't see it in the other one. And so what I would literally be telling people, get me 2 cameras. You know, you can have them facing exactly the same direction, but it's that dual camera that will tell you whether or not and how far away it was, right? If it was actually in the background of the spars or not.
Right. Yeah, I had that same conversation with Mark about this, and the first thing that I had said was, you know, was it a bug? Was it an insect? He said no. He had his own reasons for that, and also had a basic idea of altitude. But putting that aside, I was outside. This was 2 years ago, and just looking at the night sky, and from the north, I want you to picture this. From the north, from the horizon, this white ball, vast distance from Earth is my guess, but anyway, comes out and goes up and over from horizon to horizon in about 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds. Okay, so it appears, I happen to be looking to the north, otherwise I would have never caught this.
Mm-hmm.
Like a shooting star, excuse me. And I was like, wow, okay, the hell was that? Right? It was really cool. And as I'm sitting there, it happens again. Maybe it wasn't much long after that, maybe 15 seconds. But I happened to be, you know, I was kind of, and I was just wondering what, and then it,
Right.
and I looked at my phone. I texted Avi Loeb. I said, dude, right now, at whatever it was, 11:32 p.m., right? This is what I just saw. Then I ran in the house. Then I sent Avi an email. And I said, something saw this. I don't know if it's satellites, astronomers, you know, observatories, but this happened twice. And it went over, you know, whatever it was passing Earth, right? It just shot past us. And he calls me the next day and he says, I got nothing.
Yep.
I go, Avi, that's bullshit. Twice this thing went past Earth. Now I know
but
what I sound like. I know what I sound like. It's
Then
crazy.
here's the problem we have, okay? Your perception can get so messed up with distance, okay? And you know, I've got at least 2 cases that I've worked on where I've had exactly that problem. And you know, one of the cases we had 5 pilots between 2 aircraft. I've got two images, a wonderful video. They swear that, you know, this object was probably no more than a few miles away, and, you know, it was like a mile-long UAP. But the thing is, it was Starlink satellites. You know, I was able to actually pull all that information down. You can go to Celestrak, you can go back and you can pull the historical, what are called TLEs, 2-line elements, and you can plot the thing. And what I did is, you know, in the photograph, I mean, I worked with Dr. Griffiths and we had the star field, and I was able to say, okay, for this photograph, it should be here. That's exactly where it was in this photograph, you know, and I'm able to reproduce it. I'm able to reproduce the spacing between the satellites. But the thing is, the observer perceived it as something different than something that's out in space. And so whenever it comes to your perception of something, you have to be very, very careful in terms of what you think you saw. I remember there was some training I went through. I can't get into the details on it, but they literally turned off the lights in the room, and they had a bunch of us in there. And they showed us how our perception could get messed up with lights. And so it was like you're in a dark auditorium and they've got a couple of lights, and they say, well, where do you think these are in the room, right? And your perception will say, because you don't have any reference that you can utilize to gauge that, and specifically you only got certain distance between your eyeballs, you can only gauge so far out before you're able to say, it's, at least this far, right? We know we had the back of the auditorium, but, it's interesting when they turn the lights back on and they show you where those lights were. And your depth perception is just messed up in the dark in particular.
Yeah,
but
sure.
The right thing to do is for people to get multiple cameras, at least 2 that are far spaced out. And if you see something like that and you got 2 cameras, God, give me a call, right?
Here's you're absolutely right on all of that. But here's how it doesn't apply to what I witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I saw it twice, not once.
That's interesting.
Twice.
Not arguing.
What on this planet, far or near, hither or thither, right? It doesn't matter, goes from horizon to horizon in 3 seconds.
And I've had the same arguments with other people. And when we come to people we call physical scientists, it's like, where's the data, right? Okay, I can write down your thing all I want, but I'm not convincing the other Neil deGrasse's out there, right? Until I've got that physical data. Where is that data that shows that I can analyze it and I say, yep, that, oh boy, that's showing the same thing. I can triangulate it. That was at least 100 miles away or whatever it was, right? And that's what we as scientists want to see. We want to see that data. That's why you saw the SCU come out on the May 8th disclosure. It's like, there's nothing here we can use, right? And a lot of it had already been disclosed. I mean,
yeah. The video that was released was, it's fun to look at.
Everybody's like, oh, you gotta look at this video. I'm looking at it. Okay, great. There's something there. Great. It's interesting looking. I'm not going to argue that. But other than just trying to look at the image, I need position, location, and time.
Yeah. I wasn't impressed with the date. Well, you caught the show that I did with Richard, and my comment was, first off, the majority of people that looked at those files looked at the video. They didn't open up anything. They didn't open up any of the PDFs. They didn't read anything. I read it all, and it took me 24 straight hours until my eyes were bleeding. I read it all, and the truth is in the details. And one of the things that I pointed out, which goes back to exactly what you're saying, in those mission reports, they say that the aircraft captured full motion video of the UAP. The videos that you're referencing, those are all Reaper drones, and whatever. But a chase of a UAP captured in full motion video, that's not IR. That isn't anything. No, we're talking about full motion video. Where is that? They didn't release that. That is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
show us that.
You've probably heard. I don't know if we've already talked about this. It's 10 o'clock here, right? I'm hearing that the next drop happens on Friday. Some sources are saying that it will include 46 some odd videos. So hopefully it's the 46 that Congressman Loon has been whining about. But I'm going to be a wait and see type guy. If I want a video, I want to see the metadata with it, right? So
yeah. I everybody wants to see, the alien bodies on ice. I don't think that the government is going to be releasing those videos.
If that gets released, that will be the very last thing.
Well, I am more intrigued. I like the military witnesses. I like the stuff that's been happening in Congress, but I think that there's more information coming from eyewitnesses. The stuff that I have seen, and I have seen a lot, and I'm almost exhausted in talking about it, but it's right on the fringe of fantastical.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see something that you can't explain, I know, not as much as you, but I know aerospace. I know planes. Look where I live. I see stuff all the time. And when I see something like what I just described to you, because I see satellite, I see stuff out in the sky. I'm out there with night vision, man, every night. After the show tonight, I'm up on my upstairs patio, chain smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee with night vision. And I'm looking at, stuff that isn't, but when I see something that I can't explain out of the thousands of sightings that I've had, there's something to that. Yep. And I don't want somebody like Mick West, by the way. Mick West, I sent him videos that I shot one night, and I was watching off in the distance. I was watching this stuff light up and disappear behind the trees, light up, disappear behind the trees, light up. I thought at first it was a helicopter and a police helicopter or something, but I shot the video and I posted it. Mick said, send me. So I sent him the original video, gave him the coordinates, gave him the time. It was Starlink.
Yep.
And I was okay with that.
Yeah.
Totally okay.
I get,
all right.
I would say the vast majority of the stuff I get is Starlink satellites.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that. But I'm so in tune with looking at the stars. I've seen stuff zigzag. I saw, man, I've told the story so many times, but you're hearing it for the first time. I was with about 200 people. And we're in a sky watch. We're all looking up. And then, man, right in front of us, this aquamarine. It wasn't green. It wasn't blue. I call it aquamarine. This thing stuttered. And then it lit up. And then it did a backwards Zorro Z in the sky. And it had to have been miles. I have no idea. It was that much of the sky. Everybody's screaming. And this thing goes, zit, zit, zit. And then stutters and then hit its high beams and flies away. Now, that is not a satellite. That's not a plane. It's not a rocket. It's not a helicopter. It appeared and disappeared in front of us.
Yeah.
I can't explain that. I can tell you what it's not for sure.
What is
but
it?
But it happened. Yeah, exactly.
Well, so I'll give you a couple of stories. I know you only got a little bit of time left here. So Mark Antonio, so he was out at Saugatuck Reservoir with us, and Ben, myself, and him were up on the road. We're arguing about
Ben Hansen. Ben Hansen.
Yeah. So
okay.
Do a lot of work with Ben. Ben's a great guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Did you happen to get your night vision goggles from him?
No, that's a whole nother kind. No, mine, the Jimmy Church model night vision is made by another company.
Okay. So anyway, but we were arguing about, because we were trying to analyze the videos, right? And I was telling him, hey, I think I can do, this for doing it. I was doing a whole bunch of fantastic math and stuff. And we had some guys that were down along the reservoir, and we saw something. They're like, wait, we think that's it. It was kind of an amber light. And up on the road is Mick and I are arguing. Not Mick, but Ben and Mark. We see the single, and then it was kind of going along, meandering, and then it kind of disappeared behind the trees. And then, so then Mark and I start arguing again. And then all of a sudden we hear those guys yelling down there, and they're saying, guys, did you see that? And we're like, see what? We couldn't see it. It had already gone out of our field of view. But they swear what they saw was it going along, and then they said it just zipped and then showed up in another place. And then it meandered along and then disappeared. That's the kind of stuff is like, I wish I had that on video. I can talk about it until I'm blue in the face, but nobody is going to believe me talking about it unless I've got some physical evidence. And that's kind of where the science community is right now. We've seen things. It's like, but gosh, we got to start getting sensors out there. Again, multiple cameras for multiple views, and try and capture this in a scientifically sound way that we can start, being able to point at, right? It's that kind of evidence. Now, hopefully the military has it, and we're going to start seeing it here. My understanding is we're going to see drops about every 2 weeks, and just hopefully it gets better and better and better.
Do you think the world can handle it this time around? Have we been so desensitized, with Hollywood? Here's
my concern, right? and I don't want to get too much to it in on the air, but I'm just concerned it's going to be utilized in ways that we're not going to be comfortable with as a civilization. And a lot of
Such
people,
as,
in terms of it, let's call it exploited. The information is exploited in ways that we're not happy with. That's a concern.
Explain.
Either politically or religiously. And I think I just use those two words, and you can probably go.
Well, it's been that way since the dawn of man, hasn't it?
But now think of that on steroids.
Right.
That's my concern. It's not really trying to understand the phenomenology, using it to an end to a means that we're not happy with.
I think that, yes, I totally, everybody's going to have an angle, right? Everybody's going to have an angle, and
they're already started to.
Yes, for sure. But here's, I think the greater concern with governments of the world, and also religions of the world, the Vatican and what have you, is very clear. If that is the case, then the question from everybody is going to be, how long have you known this? And why have you kept it from us? And if you are aware of a technology that could be heating our schools,
all I can do is put my national defense hat on and say, okay, I get it. Because fundamentally, because at that time, at least we and the Russians had nuclear weapons, right? If you have a technology that will allow you to leapfrog your adversaries, everybody's going to keep that under wraps. You're going to try and exploit it. You're going to try and be the first one to come up with understanding how that works, because from a national defense standpoint, it will accelerate your ability to confront your adversaries. End of story. The other reasons, maybe, but that fundamentally would be it from a national defense standpoint. If I was back in the 40s and I was the guy looking at it, I'm like, oh yeah, we're throwing a cover over this so deep you can't even try and get into it.
Well, and I would say, if I'm going to speculate as to the why, which is the biggest question, if it's a national security issue, then you have a grip on some type of technology, and that's the national security issue. Mm-hmm. That's it. There isn't, and so what that would suggest is we have craft. And we have exploited a certain amount of
we have, and then we're trying to exploit them, right? After you would hope after 60 some, 80 some odd years, we figured out something, right? But I can tell you now, within just like the last 10, 15 years, I mean, our ability to analyze materials has gotten better. Our material science that in particular has gotten better. We're doing things with quantum physics now that 5 years ago we couldn't do. I mean, the concept of having a photon going backwards in time and capturing that in video was unheard of, right? So I mean, there's things like that going on now. If you watch the science news very closely, you'd be going, "Wow, this is some cool stuff," right?
Have you seen the photograph of entangled particles? Have you seen that image?
I have seen an image, and it looks like the yin and the yang.
Yeah,
that's the one you're talking about.
yeah. And so what that this is what that suggests to me. When you look at that, because there's no question about what you're looking at. It's yin and yang. It's perfect. It would Russia, China, and the United States are all sharing that technology, not with each other, in their own countries, right? The United States is not the gatekeeper of all things UFO. That is simply not. Russia and China are right there too as well. And then when you look at something like that image of yin and yang, or I just said an image of entangled pairs, and that has been the symbology of yin and yang in Asian culture for so many thousands of years. Then there's contact that was made, there's something that they were able to see what an entangled pair was, whether they were shown that or that technology was from the past. But that yin and yang capture, the entangled pair image suggests that to me, that this technology has been here.
And I'm not going there because I
am. So I am. When you look at just I'm going to pull it up. I'm just going to pull this up for you. This to me is about as crazy of an image in the entire history of everything that there is.
Yep, that's the one. Yep.
That's insane. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Doug, what a great conversation, man. I look forward to having you back on the show. And
yeah, Jimmy, really quick, just to make sure your entire audience knows, all these opinions of mine, they do not reflect the U.S. government, my employer, blah, 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 all the legal stuff, right? So this is my background and my experiences and what I'm allowed to talk about.
I look forward to seeing you called as a witness in front of Congress and say the same thing. I'll talk to you, Doug. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
No problem. Great talking.
Great show. Thank you so much, Doug. And the link for all of Doug's research is below. Go and check it out. I've been reading the papers all week. So go and click on the link. It's very, very fun stuff. All right. What am I doing tomorrow night? Somebody help me out here. I am brain freezing. Tomorrow night is Bill and Jackie are here. Tomorrow night is our Paranormal World. That'll be Wednesday. Thursday night, James Keenan is here from Skinwalker Ranch. And that will wrap up the week. So I'll see everybody right here tomorrow night. Until then, I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tap. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.